Hi, my dear students. I am Sunira from Department of Physics, Government College, Madapalli. This is Lecture 2, part of Waves, which is Module 4 in second semester BSc Physics Mechanics paper of University of Calicut. In this lecture, we will learn about harmonic traveling waves. In our previous lecture, we learned what is a wave, what are the classifications of waves, different properties of waves, etc. In this lecture, we will concentrate on harmonic traveling waves. So, what is a harmonic traveling wave? That's our first question. Suppose a driving force produces harmonic oscillations and the disturbance produced by this oscillation propagates through an open medium. Then that wave is called harmonic traveling wave. In our previous lecture, we learned about standing waves and traveling waves. There we classified that if the system is closed one or if the medium is closed, then the wave is called standing wave. If the medium is an open medium, then the wave is called traveling wave. Okay, here we discuss harmonic traveling wave. So the disturbance produced at the driving by the driving force, the disturbance produced by the driving force is due to harmonic oscillation. Okay, so this disturbance propagates through the open medium. Then we get harmonic traveling wave. At steady state, all moving parts of the system oscillates with harmonic motion at the driving frequency. Okay, when the system stabilizes, all moving parts of the system oscillates with harmonic motion at the driving frequency. Now, what is its one-dimensional form? Okay, for that, consider a homogeneous and continuous stretched string which is infinitely long. So, what is a homogeneous string? Homogeneous string, all part of the string has same property. Then we can call the string as homogeneous. If a medium has same property throughout it everywhere, then the medium is called homogeneous medium. Here our string is homogeneous. That means the string has same property throughout its length. Okay. The second thing is it is infinitely long. Along the z direction, we assume the direction where the string lies as z-axis. Okay, so from z equal to 0 to z equal to infinity, the string is extended. Okay, so then what happens? If the medium is an open medium, infinitely extended medium, then you get a traveling wave. Okay, so we assume the system like that. Now at z equal to 0, that is at one end of the string is connected with a transmitter. Okay, this transmitter shake the string and produce a traveling wave along the string. Okay, so at one end of the string, there is a transmitter. This transmitter shake the string and produce a traveling wave along the string. Now we can write the expressions. So the displacement at the output of the transmitter. We already assumed that the transmitter is connected at z equal to 0. Okay, so the displacement at z equal to 0. This is given by d, capital D of t, which is equal to a cos omega t. We already assumed harmonic motion, harmonic oscillations. So we assume a mathematical function of the same form, cos function. So at z equal to 0, the displacement produced is given by d of t equal to e cos omega t. Now we have to find out the displacement at z. Okay, not at z equal to 0, an arbitrary z. That displacement psi z of t. We assume that the displacement at z is given by psi of zt. Okay, where it lies between 0 and infinity. This z lies between 0 and infinity because we know that the string is extended to infinity. So in between these two ends, some arbitrary position is there. That position is represented by z. So the displacement at z is given by psi z of t. Okay. The displacement at z equal to 0 is given by psi 0t. Here z equal to 0. Psi 0t. This is equal to d of t. That is given by a cos omega t. Okay. So now the next point is the harmonic traveling wave moves with constant velocity as long as the properties of the medium remain same. Okay, so in this context, we assume that our string is homogeneous. That means it has same property throughout. So the phase velocity is a constant. Okay. Now, what is the phase velocity? The velocity of the harmonic traveling wave is called the phase velocity. This is represented by v phi. Okay. Now, we can check how to find out the expression for phase velocity. Okay, for that, the motion of a moving part at position z, we observe the motion at point z. Okay, the motion of the string at z at time t. The same motion happens at z equal to 0 at an earlier time t prime. Okay, that means if you get a particular motion at z, the same motion happens earlier at z equal to 0. Okay, that means at the output of the transmitter, what type of disturbance produced there, that propagates through the string. Okay, so a particular moment at a particular position z, what disturbance we obtain, the same disturbance happens at an earlier time t prime at z equal to 0. Okay, so we can connect now t and t prime. That is, t prime is earlier than t by the time that the wave takes to travel from z equal to 0 to z. Okay, what is the time required from traveling at z equal to 0 to z? Z by v phi. Distance travelled by phase velocity. Z by v phi. We already assumed that the time is t. Okay, so t prime is given by t minus z by v phi. Hope that you get the result like this. How we can find out this? Okay, that means we look at a particular point position of the string. Let it be z at time t. The same motion happens in the string at z equal to 0 at an earlier time t prime. Okay, so the time difference connection between t prime and t is given by the time taken by the wave to travel from z equal to 0 to z. That is actually z by v phi. Okay, so we can get the time as t prime equal to t minus z by v phi. Okay. Now we can write the mathematical expression for the displacement psi zt. Okay, so psi zt equal to psi 0 t prime. Okay, this is given by a cos omega t prime. Psi 0 t is equal to capital D of t. Here t is replaced by t prime. Okay, so psi 0 t prime equal to a cos omega t prime. Now we can substitute for t prime. Okay, then you get a cos omega t minus z v phi. By rearranging, you can write this as a cos omega t minus omega z by v phi. What are the peculiarities of this expression? For a given time t, if you look at different z at a given time t, what happens? The displacement varies sinusoidally with z. Okay, because if this term is a constant, this argument is goes as cos of a constant minus omega z by v phi. So this function is a sinusoidally varying varying in space function. Okay, a cos omega t minus omega z by v phi. At the same time, think about another case. Suppose for a given z, we look at the motion of the system. For a given z, the displacement varies sinusoidally again, sinusoidally in time. Okay, that means in this case, the second case, this part is a constant. Omega z by v phi is a constant, but there is this term. So altogether, this is a sinusoidally varying function. Okay, so this displacement, the one-dimensional displacement of the one-dimensional harmonic traveling wave is both sinusoidal in time and space. Okay. Now we can check its wave number. We already learned in our previous lecture what is a wave number. In that case, we learned that it is called frequency in space. Okay, because 1 by lambda, frequency in space. Here we use k equal to 2 pi by lambda, propagation vector, k equal to 2 pi by lambda. Okay, now we can take the ratio omega by v phi. Omega is the angular frequency, v phi is the phase velocity. Okay, so omega by v phi equal to 2 pi by t v phi. This is equal to 2 pi by lambda. Okay, t v phi equal to lambda wavelength. The time period multiplied by the phase velocity gives the distance travelled in one time period. What is the distance travelled in one time period? That is lambda, the wavelength. Okay, so this expression goes to 2 pi by lambda. This is equal to k. Okay, so the case of a harmonic travelling wave, the relation between omega phase velocity and k. This is given by omega by v phi equal to k. This expression is called dispersion relation. Omega by v phi equal to k. Okay. So now we can write the phase velocity. The phase velocity v phi equal to omega by k. This is equal to f lambda because omega equal to 2 pi f, k equal to 2 pi by lambda. Okay, so you get omega by k equal to f lambda. Similarly, this is equal to lambda by t. Now we can find out the phase velocity in another method using phase function. Okay, then what is phase function? The argument of the wave function cos omega t minus kz is called phase function. What is its argument? This part. Okay, omega t minus kz. This is called phase function. Let it be phi. Okay, so phi zt equal to omega t minus kz. Now, what is the peculiarity of phase function? As t increases, phase increases because of the term omega t. At a given time t, the phase decreases linearly with z due to the term minus kz. Okay, so the phase decreases linearly with z due to the term minus kz. Now, to get a constant phase function, we have to follow a given wave crest or trough of the traveling wave by looking at different z as t changes. Then only we get the constant phase function because we know that phi z of t equal to omega t minus kz. So in order to get this function constant, we have to look at different z and corresponding t. Then only we get phi z of t as a constant function. Okay, so we can find out the total differential of the phase function and equate it to 0. Then we get the relation between z and t for a point of constant phase. Okay, so the exact differential of phi d phi equal to dou phi by dou t into dt plus dou phi by dou z into dz. Okay, this is equal to omega dt minus k dz. From where get this omega and k? We already know that phi equal to omega t minus kz. Okay, so dou phi by dou t equal to omega. Dou phi by dou z equal to minus k. Okay, so substituting this you get omega dt minus k dz equal to 0. Rearranging this equation, we get v phi equal to dz by dt, that is equal to omega by k. The same expression which we get from wave number, expression for wave number. Okay, so you can find out the phase velocity of the system either using wave number or using phase function. Okay. Now, what are non-dispersive waves? When the wave has a simple dispersion law such that V equal to omega by k, V of k equal to omega of k by k. This is constant and independent of k, then the waves are said to be non-dispersive wave. That means this relation gives a constant velocity which is independent of the wave vector k. Okay, constant velocity independent of wave vector k. Then we can say that the wave is non-dispersive wave. What about dispersive wave? In this case, This wave is a superposition of traveling waves with different wave numbers. As the wave propagates, the shape changes due to the different wavelength components travels with different speeds. Okay, so different frequency components get dispersed, and in this case the phase velocity varies with wavelength or wave number. In the case of non-dispersive wave, we found that the phase velocity is independent of wave number, or the phase velocity is independent of wavelength and it is a constant. In this case, the phase velocity varies with wavelength. And so, as the wave propagates through the medium, its shape changes and different components moves with different speed. Now, we can discuss, till this moment, we discussed transverse waves on a stretched string. Okay, what's a transverse wave? Yes, in our previous lecture, we discussed it. Okay, transverse wave means the particles execute harmonic oscillations perpendicular to the direction of propagation. Okay, so till this moment we discussed the waves in a stretched string, transverse waves in a stretched string. Here we discussing the velocity of sound. Okay, so what is the peculiarity of sound? Sound is a longitudinal wave. Okay, that means the particles in the medium execute harmonic oscillations along the direction of propagation of the sound or propagation of the wave. Okay, then the wave is called a longitudinal wave. Sound is a longitudinal wave. Okay, so as a first example, we discussed transverse waves on a stretched string. The second example, we discuss the velocity of sound. That is an example for a longitudinal wave. Okay, so the Sir Isaac Newton was the first one who derived an expression for the velocity of sound waves in air. The same Newton who find out gravitational force. Okay, he is a genius, excellent genius. Okay, so what he was done? He predicted a velocity of about 280 meter per second. Actually, the observed velocity is 332 meter per second at STP. Okay. According to Newton's derivation, he predicted a velocity of 280 meter per second. But the observed velocity is of the order of observed velocity is 332 meter per second at STP, standard temperature and pressure. Okay. Actually, his derivation is very simple. He assumed a closed long cylinder which is filled with air. Okay, closed long cylinder filled with air. Its one end is a wall and the other end is closed by a massless movable piston. Okay, so Newton assumed a closed long cylinder which is filled with air. Its one end is a wall and the other end is a piston. What's the peculiarity of this piston? It is massless movable piston. Comparing with the other part of the comparing with the cylinder, the mass of the piston is very low, negligible mass. Okay. Now what happens? Then Newton assumed that the air inside the cylinder behaves like a compressed spring extending along the cylinder. Okay, the air inside the cylinder behaves just like a compressed spring which is extending along the cylinder. Could you imagine the structure? Okay, compressed spring which is extended along the cylinder. Suppose this is the cylinder, this is the wall, and this part, this is a movable piston. Okay, then inside this cylinder the air behaves just like a compressed spring. So here is a spring along the cylinder. Okay, this spring is a compressed one. Okay, because due to the movable piston we can compress the air inside the cylinder. Okay, that means the air molecules inside the cylinder behaves just like compressed spring. It tries to push the piston out of the cylinder with a force of magnitude F. Okay, since the air molecules behave like compressed spring, this air molecules tries to push this piston out with a force of magnitude F. Okay, at equilibrium, an external force of magnitude F on the piston balances the force of the air. Okay, so at the equilibrium, the piston do not move. The piston doesn't move at equilibrium. So what happened? The force inside due to the compressed air molecules and the external force due to the atmosphere, both are balance each other. That situation is called equilibrium. Okay, so then we can assume the next assumption. Next assumption is that the spring has a relaxed length L1 and the compressed length L. Okay, where is the spring? The spring is the air molecules inside the cylinder. Okay, the air molecules inside the cylinder is assumed as compressed spring. So the actual length of the spring is L1. When it gets compressed, its length is L. So L is always less than L1, right? Because suppose if you take a spring, it has an equilibrium length. In this case, it is L1. Once it compresses, its length gets reduced and you get a new length. That length is called L. Okay, that means the compressed length is always less than the relaxed length L1. Okay. Now, let KL represent the spring constant of the spring. Then the force F is given by F equal to minus KL into L minus L1. What is this L minus L1? L minus L1 is the change in length. Okay, so F is equal to minus KL into L minus L1. Suppose the length of the spring is changed by dl. Then there is a change in force which is represented by df. This df is given by minus kl dl. Okay. Similarly, the air exerts a force on the piston. That force is given by F equal to P into A. The air exerts a force on the piston. That is given by F is equal to PA, where P is the pressure and A is the cross-sectional area of the cylinder. Okay. So, what happens now? If we, here Newton assumed a closed long cylinder with one end is a wall and the other end is a movable piston. He next assumed that the air molecules inside the cylinder behave just like compressed spring. Okay, at equilibrium, there is a force exerted by this spring on the piston, and an external force is there on the piston due to the air outside the cylinder. Okay, these two forces balances each other at equilibrium. Now we find out the expressions for the two cases. The first case, we find out the force due to the spring, and when it changes its length, what happens to the change in the force. Then we find out the force exerted by the air outside the cylinder on the piston. That is F is equal to P into A. P is the pressure and A area of cross section of the piston. Okay. Now, if the piston is displaced slightly from equilibrium so that its length changes by dl, then the volume changes by AdL equal to dV. Okay. So, if the piston displaced slightly by an amount dl, the corresponding change in volume is given by AdL. Because A is fixed, because A is represent the area of cross section of the piston. It is constant. So this thing has no change. So the volume, change in volume dV is given by AdL. So the change in force dF equal to AdP. Area of cross section into change in pressure AdP. This is equal to A into dP by dV at equilibrium into dV. Okay. This is equal to A into dP by dV at equilibrium AdL. Okay. Here the subscript 0 means that dP by dV is evaluated at the equilibrium volume. Okay. So now you have two equations. Equation 1 which gives the change in force due to the spring. In this case we get change in force due to the outside air. Okay. So now we can compare these two because at equilibrium these both should be equal. Okay. So comparing equations 1 and 2, we get the spring constant as KL equal to minus A square dP by dV at equilibrium volume. Now, the phase velocity of the longitudinal wave through a compressed spring of equilibrium length L0 and the linear mass density ρl is given by V square equal to KL L0 by ρl. Okay. This is a problem in your textbook, Berkeley Physics waves. Okay. So we can use that result here directly. That means here the phase velocity of the longitudinal wave through a compressed spring is given by V square equal to KL L0 by rho L. KL is the spring constant, L0 is the equilibrium length of the spring, and rho L represent linear mass density. That means mass per unit length. What is meant by linear mass density? Linear mass density means mass per unit length. Okay. So the square of the velocity of the longitudinal wave through a spring is given by this expression. Here rho L represent linear mass density or mass per unit length. Now we can use that expression here because sound wave is longitudinal wave. Now the linear mass density is related with the volume mass density by this expression. Okay, so rho L into L0 gives the actual mass. This mass is equal to volume mass density into volume. Okay, rho v into AL0. From this, we can find out that expression for linear mass density in terms of its volume mass density. Now substituting all these in this expression, we get V square as minus V0 dP by dV at 0 at equilibrium divided by rho V volume mass density. Now we have to substitute for dP by dV. dP by dV. So for that, Newton assumed that the system obeys Boyle's law. Boyle's law. What is Boyle's law? At constant temperature, the product of pressure times volume is a constant. This is called Boyle's law. Okay. PV equal to P0 V0. So P equal to P0 V0 by V, where P0 is the equilibrium pressure. Now we can find out dP by dV by differentiating this expression. That is dP by dV equal to minus P0 V0 by V square. Here P0 V0 are equilibrium pressure and volume. These are constants. This is the only variable. So by differentiating this, you get dP by dV equal to minus P0 V0 by V square. Now at equilibrium, this V should be equal to V0. That means substituting for V0, we get V0 dP by dV at equilibrium equal to minus P0. Now we can substitute this expression for the expression for phase velocity. That is V square is given by P0 by rho, or V equal to root of P0 by rho. This is an important result. You want to learn very well the derivation and this expression, which helps you to do problems. Okay. So the velocity of the longitudinal wave is given by root of P0 by rho V. Now we can find out its numerical value. So assume at equilibrium pressure 1 atmospheric pressure. This is given by 1.01 into 10 raised to 5 Newton per meter square. Similarly, the density rho 0 of the air is given by 1.29 into 10 raised to minus 3 gram per centimeter cube. Then substituting these two here and simplifying, you can see that the velocity of the sound in air at standard temperature and pressure is given by 280 meter per second. But experimentally observed that this velocity is 332 meter per second. So there is some discrepancy between Newton's derivation and the actual value. It is almost equal, but there is a slight error in this calculation. Okay, that means Newton comes close to the right answer but miss it by 15%. So we have to check the reason. What happens to his assumptions to produce this much error in its derivation? The reason is that Newton assumed Boyle's law holds for sound waves, but this is not true. The temperature in a sound wave varies. Newton assumed that the sound wave propagates with constant temperature, but now we know that sound wave propagates through the medium with compressions and rarefactions. So the temperature is greater at compressions and lower at rarefactions. So this is not a constant temperature process. Not a isothermal process. Okay. So the temperature in a sound wave varies. It is not a constant. So The problem is with Boyle's law. So we can use adiabatic gas law to find out dP by dV. Okay. So what is adiabatic gas law? P V raised to gamma equal to P0 V0 raised to gamma. Then P pressure equal to P0 V0 raised to gamma by V raised to gamma. What is gamma? Gamma is the ratio of specific heat at constant pressure to specific heat at constant volume. Cp by Cv. Gamma is called Cp by Cv. At standard temperature and pressure, this gamma equal to 1.4. Okay, gamma equal to 1.4. Now, differentiating this equation with respect to volume, we get dP by dV as we do in the case of Boyle's law. Differentiating, you get an expression like this by setting V equal to V0. This is for equilibrium. So, by setting V equal to V0, you get expression like this. Now, we can substitute this, the expression for velocity. So, you get the phase velocity V square equal to gamma P0 by rho 0 or V equal to root of gamma P0 by rho 0. Okay. So the velocity of the sound is given by V equal to root gamma velocity obtained by Newton. Okay, root P0 by gamma 0, root P0 by rho 0 is the velocity obtained by the derivation of Newton. Okay, now we get an error term root gamma times velocity of Newton, velocity of the sound by the derivation of Newton. Substituting all these here, you get 332 meter per second. Okay, now the velocity of the sound matches with the observed velocity. So the error happened assuming the isothermal sound propagation as an isothermal process. Actually, sound propagation is not an isothermal process, it is an adiabatic process. Okay. So why this sound propagation and adiabatic process? That is what we want to check now. To equalize the temperature, that means if the sound propagates with constant temperature, to equalize the temperature, heat must flow at a distance of 1/2 wavelength in a time. Where this 1/2 wavelength comes? The wavelength of the sound is the distance between two consecutive compressions or two consecutive rarefactions. Okay, so the temperature is different at rarefactions and compressions. So to move from compression to rarefaction, temperature is high at compressions. So to move the temperature to stabilize, to equalize the temperature, it needs to flow from compressions to rarefactions. Okay, so it want to move at a distance of half wavelength. So the temperature should flow with the shortest time comparing with the half period of the oscillation. Okay, half period of the oscillation. So the velocity of the heat flow should be greater than the velocity of the sound. Velocity of heat flow should be greater than the velocity of the sound. What is the velocity of the sound? The distance by time. Here the distance is lambda by 2 and the time is half the period. So lambda by 2 by t by 2. So the heat flow is mainly due to conduction. The heat flow happens mainly due to conduction. That is transfer of translational kinetic energy from one molecule to another via collisions. This is called conduction. Okay. The RMS thermal velocity of a molecule In a given direction, z is given by root kt by m. Sorry. Here m is the mass of the molecule. Okay. So the RMS thermal velocity of a molecule is given by root kt by m. Here k represent the Boltzmann constant. So what is the velocity of the sound? The velocity of the sound is given by root gamma p0 by rho 0. This is equal to root of gamma kt by m. This is equal to root gamma Vrms. Okay. So if the molecules traveled in straight lines for distances of order lambda by 2, before making collisions, they would transfer heat in time. Hope that you get the logic. If the molecules in the air traveled in straight lines, no zigzag motion, if it traveled through straight lines without making collisions through a distance lambda by 2, that can transfer heat in time. But we know that the molecules execute zigzag motion. They can move only distances between collisions of the order of 10 raised to minus 5 centimeter at STP. Very small distance. Average distance traveled without making collision is 10 raised to minus 5 centimeter at standard temperature and pressure. Okay. So the wavelength of the sound is very long. So as long as the wavelength is long compared with this distance 10 raised to minus 5 centimeter, the adiabatic law is a good approximation. We cannot apply isothermal law. Hope that you get the idea. In order to apply the isothermal law, Boyle's law, we need a constant temperature. But in the case of propagation of sound waves, there is no constant temperature. There is no chance for obtaining constant temperature. Okay, that is what we discuss here. So, the system should be analyzed with adiabatic law. Now, we can conclude this discussion here. In this lecture, we have learned about one-dimensional harmonic wave. So, what is a harmonic traveling wave? Then we derive the expression for the phase velocity, either using the expression for wave number or using the expression for phase function. Two methods. Then we learned about the difference between dispersive and non-dispersive waves. Then we derived the expression for velocity of sound using Newton's method. Then corrected the expression using the adiabatic law. Okay, in this case, the velocity of sound using Newton's method is an essay question, and above all, we have to analyze the logical thinking of Newton, how magnificently he assumed all the situations and derived an expression for the sound. His result is very close to the actual experimental result. There is a slight error. Then in this analysis, we have to mention how this expression is corrected. Why this correction required. All these things. Okay. If you once heard this lecture, please read section 4 Waves by Crawford Jr., which is your prescribed text. Okay. Happy learning. Thank you.